Hey there. Thanks for stopping by. Before we dive into today's story, let me know where you're watching from and how this video makes you feel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. The night before my wedding was supposed to feel like magic. Chatter with bridesmaids, champagne bubbles, maybe even a few happy tears. Instead, I sat alone on the edge of a hotel bed in coastal Monterey, the glow of my phone screen casting ghostly light across the room. One text had torn everything apart. You should know the truth before you say yes forever. At first I thought it was spam, a sick prank, but the image attached told a different story. No filters, no blurry angles, just brutal, high-definition clarity. In the photo, Ethan Wolfe, my fiancé, shirtless, tangled in bed with Maya Green, my best friend since middle school, the same Maya who had helped me pick my dress, who had cried when I asked her to be my maid of honor. My hand trembled so hard I nearly dropped the phone. My pulse thundered in my ears as the image expanded, confirming what I didn't want to see. His hand on her hip, her smile. The hotel room behind them clearly not either of their homes. The room spun. I covered my mouth, forcing back a sob that tried to claw its way out. It couldn't be true. Not them. Not like this. But it was. I saw it, and no amount of denial would make it disappear. I sat frozen for what felt like hours. Then, with shaking fingers, I tapped Maya's name and hit call. She answered too quickly. "Hey, Jules, everything okay?" Her voice, bright, casual, made bile rise in my throat. I kept my tone flat. "I got a text." Silence. 1 second. 2, 3. "What kind of text?" she finally asked, but her voice had changed, smaller, tighter. "Don't do that," I said quietly. "Don't act like you don't know." Another pause, then a trembling breath. "Juliana, I was going to tell you. When? After the vows? After the honeymoon?" She started crying. I didn't care. "It was one time," she pleaded. "We were drunk. It didn't mean anything." I laughed. It was short and sharp and humorless. "Didn't mean anything? So you threw away 15 years of friendship for nothing?" "I was scared," she whispered. "Scared to lose you." "Well," I said coldly, "you lost me anyway." She sobbed harder. I hung up. The hotel room went silent again, except for the faint hum of the mini fridge and my ragged breathing. I stood and walked to the mirror. My reflection stared back, pale, eyes red, 1,000 questions swirling in her gaze. But somewhere in all that wreckage, a spark had ignited. I wasn't going to fall apart. Not yet. I picked up my phone again. This time I dialed Ethan. It rang once, then twice. Then he picked up. "Hey, babe, everything okay?" I said nothing. "Juliana, check your texts." Silence. Then a sharp inhale. "I can explain." "You have until morning." I ended the call, tossed the phone on the bed, and sat back down. Tomorrow was supposed to be my wedding day. Now it would be something else entirely. I didn't sleep. The hours blurred together as I sat on the hotel floor in my bridesmaid robe, knees pulled to my chest, watching shadows stretch across the carpet with the rise of the sun. My wedding dress hung from the closet door, untouched. The same dress Maya had helped me pick. I could still hear her voice gushing. "It's so you, Jules, so classic, so powerful." Ironic, considering the power had shifted entirely. At 7:03 a.m., there was a soft knock on my door. I already knew who it was. "Jules, it's me, Ethan." His voice was muffled, but unmistakable. I didn't move, didn't answer. He knocked again, a little harder. "Please, just 5 minutes." I opened the door without a word. He stood there, suit pressed, hair perfect, like he hadn't shattered the center of my world just hours before. "Can I come in?" he asked gently. I nodded once, stepping aside. He entered slowly, as if unsure if the ground beneath him was stable. I closed the door and turned to face him. His eyes flicked to the dress still hanging. "You look tired." I didn't reply. He shifted. "I know what you saw. And I'm not going to lie to you. It happened. It was a mistake. I was drunk. She was drunk. I don't even know how it started." I raised a brow. "But you know how it ended." He flinched like the words were physical. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I never stopped loving you." "Don't," I said flatly. "Don't you dare say that word." He sat down on the edge of the bed, running a hand through his hair. "Juliana," I panicked. "We've been planning this wedding. Everything was moving so fast. And Maya, she was just there." "You mean available?" His jaw tightened. "You were always so perfect. So composed, I felt like I couldn't breathe sometimes. And instead of talking to me, you chose her." He didn't deny it. I walked over to the window, pulling open the curtain. Sunlight streamed in, too warm, too cheerful for a day like this. "You know what hurts the most?" I asked. Ethan looked up. "What?" I wasn't surprised. He blinked. "What do you mean?" "There were signs, late texts, the way you got weird when Maya was around, how you pulled away from me but smiled at her like she was a joke you couldn't stop retelling. I saw it. I just didn't want to believe it." He stood and stepped toward me. "We can move past this. Please, the wedding's in a few hours. People are already flying in. We can talk through it, deal with it later." "No," he froze. "I'm not sweeping this under a rug to save face. I won't wear white and lie to everyone who loves me. I won't make promises I know you've already broken." His face crumbled. "Jules, the wedding's still happening," I said calmly, turning back to him, his brows knit together in confusion. "It is?" I nodded. "But it won't end the way you think." He stared at me, searching for meaning. "What are you planning?" I smiled, just barely. "Truth." He didn't understand, not yet, but he would, because by the end of today, everyone would. And I'd make sure no one forgot what Ethan Wolfe and Maya Green tried to bury beneath white lace and champagne toasts. The hours leading up to the ceremony unfolded like a beautifully staged lie. The suite bustled with movement. Hairstylists curling, makeup artists blending, bridesmaids laughing too loudly. No one seemed to notice that I barely spoke, that I hadn't touched my mimosa, that my smile didn't quite reach my eyes. Maya was there, of course. Sitting on the velvet bench in her blush-toned gown, eyes puffy but face composed. She offered to steam my veil like nothing had happened, like she hadn't unraveled a decade of friendship with one night of betrayal. "I'm here if you need anything," she whispered as she passed me a hairpin. I stared at her for a beat too long. "Thanks." The wedding planner bustled in then, clipboard in hand. 10 minutes, Jules. Are we good?" I nodded. She turned and left. Maya hovered nearby. "You look beautiful," she offered, voice soft. I met her gaze in the mirror. "Do I?" She faltered. "Yes, truly." I didn't answer. I just stood and walked to the vanity. I touched the hem of my dress, the silk cool beneath my fingers, a symbol of everything I thought this day would be. Then I reached for my phone. Earlier that morning, I'd uploaded the photo, the one I received last night, to a shared cloud folder. Added a few short sentences, enough context to be undeniable. I opened the link, tested the connection. Live. My heart beat steady, calm. I'd never been more certain of anything. "Bridal party, line up," the planner called. Maya moved toward the door. I reached out and touched her arm. She turned. "Whatever happens out there," I said, my voice low, "just remember, you made this choice." Her eyes widened. "Jules, please don't." I let go of her. "See you at the altar." The music started. Soft violins drifting through the open chapel doors. The guests rose as my father took my arm. He didn't see the fire beneath my smile, the quiet storm building. We began our walk down the aisle. Rows of familiar faces turned toward me, expressions soft with love, anticipation. Ethan stood at the end of the aisle, hands clasped, face unreadable. Maya stood just behind him. I saw her glance at me, a flicker of panic in her eyes. Step by step, I moved forward, not to join, to end. When I reached the front, my father kissed my cheek and stepped away. Ethan reached for my hands. I gave them to him. The officiant smiled. "Dearly beloved." The room faded to silence in my ears. My heart beat louder than anything else. Then came the line I was waiting for. "If anyone here has reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony." I smiled. "I do." Gasps rippled. The officiant froze. Ethan's hands tensed in mine. I let go. Reaching behind me, I pulled my phone from the small silk pouch tied to my bouquet. I tapped the screen. The chapel's projector flickered to life, and the image filled the wall behind us. Maya and Ethan. Tangled, exposed, timed, dated. A stunned silence fell, followed by murmurs, shocked whispers. A woman in the second row covered her mouth. Ethan turned pale. Maya dropped her bouquet. I looked between them. I just thought everyone should see the truth before we all pretended it wasn't there. Then I turned to the guests, lifted my chin. "There will be no wedding, but thank you for coming." And I walked back down the aisle, alone, strong, free. The sunlight hit my skin as I stepped outside, the doors of the chapel swinging shut behind me with a soft thud. It felt like the final page of a book closing, sharp, complete. But I didn't feel broken. I felt weightless. The scent of roses and sea breeze drifted through the air, blending with the quiet hum of disbelief echoing from inside. I could still hear them, muffled gasps, frantic whispers, someone calling my name. I didn't turn back. My heels clicked against the stone walkway as I made my way toward the parking circle. My bouquet, once pristine, hung limply in my hand now, like a relic from a ceremony that had never truly existed. Behind me, the heavy chapel doors creaked open. Footsteps. "Juliana!" Ethan's voice. I stopped but didn't face him. "I need to explain," he called again, desperation cracking through his polished tone. I turned slowly. He looked like someone caught in the aftermath of their own disaster, his boutonniere slightly askew, sweat beading at his temples, eyes wide with disbelief. "You humiliated me," he whispered. I raised an eyebrow. "You think that's what this was about? Public embarrassment?" I said I was sorry. Maya said. "Maya," I repeated, my voice sharper now. "Maya said a lot of things. She was drunk. It meant nothing. You know what? That's your story. You get to keep it. You can recite it to yourselves for the rest of your lives." He flinched. "So that's it?" "No," I said quietly. "This is the beginning." I turned away again, walking toward the line of parked cars where my cousin Elena stood waiting by her rental, phone in one hand, iced coffee in the other. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Holy hell," she said, sliding her sunglasses to the top of her head. "You actually did it." "I did." "You okay?" I nodded. "Eventually." She popped the trunk and helped me out of my heels. I slipped into a pair of white sneakers I had packed for dancing. Funny how they now served a different kind of freedom. We got into the car. As Elena pulled onto the main road, I glanced in the side mirror. Ethan stood alone on the chapel steps, tie loosened, hands at his sides. Maya was nowhere in sight. Good. As the car picked up speed, I rolled down the window. The breeze rushed in, wild and unscripted, just like what came next. I didn't have a plan, I didn't have a timeline, but I had something more valuable, myself. And for the first time in years, that was more than enough. The drive away from the chapel was a blur of coastline and silence. Elena didn't push. She just drove with one hand on the wheel, letting the breeze thread through her curls and the music hum low beneath our thoughts. I stared out the window at the water, the waves crashing in steady rhythm against the shore. I used to think healing would feel like fire, loud, hot, explosive. But now, in the aftermath of everything, I realized it felt more like this. Quiet, still, unfolding slowly. We checked into a small hotel about 30 minutes outside town, the kind with seafoam walls and no wedding memories. Elena tossed me a sweatshirt that read, "I survived a family reunion in Tampa." It was 2 sizes too big and exactly what I needed. That night, we didn't talk much. She let me pick the takeout and the movie. I chose dumplings and a comedy I barely paid attention to. My mind kept drifting, to the guests' faces, to the silence after the reveal, to Ethan standing there stunned, and Maya frozen like a deer in headlights. There was satisfaction in that. Not revenge, just truth. And truth had a strange way of settling the soul. When the credits rolled, Elena glanced over. "You want to talk?" I shook my head. "Not yet." "Okay," she said softly. "But when you do, I'm here." I nodded and turned off the light. In the darkness, I let the weight of it all wash over me. The wedding that wasn't. The future that unraveled. The best friend I no longer had, and beneath it all the steady beat of something new. Freedom. The next morning I woke to sunlight filtering through gauzy curtains and the smell of cheap hotel coffee brewing down the hall. I reached for my phone out of habit. A text from an unknown number. I don't know what to say, but I'm sorry. No name, but I didn't need one. I deleted it without responding. Instead, I opened my notes app and started typing. Not a plan, not a journal, just a thought. Maybe endings are just beginnings dressed in heavier clothes. I sat with that sentence for a while, letting it stretch and breathe. Then I got up, showered, pulled on jeans and the ridiculous Tampa sweatshirt, and met Elena in the lobby. "What's the plan today?" she asked. I smiled. "Coffee, a walk, and then maybe I figure out what I want next," she grinned. "That sounds like a damn good start." And for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed her. We started with coffee. The kind that came in oversized mugs at a beachside cafe that didn't care if you wore mascara or just heartbreak. I wrapped my hands around the ceramic warmth and stared out at the waves, letting their rhythm remind me to breathe. Elena talked about her job, her boss's obsession with motivational quotes, some terrible date she went on last week. I listened. I even laughed a little. Not because everything was okay, but because something inside me had shifted. A door cracked open. A little air was finally getting in. After breakfast, we walked the boardwalk. The salt air stung my skin in a way that felt almost cleansing. A man played guitar near a railing. 2 kids shared a melting ice cream cone. Life hadn't stopped just because mine had rerouted. Back at the hotel, I opened my email for the first time in days. Unread messages flooded the screen, vendors asking about invoices, distant relatives offering support, and then one that made me pause. Subject: feature pitch, women who walk away. It was from an editor I'd met once at a networking event months ago. She remembered I was a writer, saw a viral post someone had made about the wedding, wanted to know if I'd consider telling my side. My finger hovered over the trackpad. For a second, I wasn't sure. Did I want to be the girl who got cheated on? The runaway bride? The cautionary tale? But then I thought about every woman who'd messaged me after that clip surfaced, the ones who said, "You were braver than I was. I wish I had done what you did." Maybe it wasn't about the scandal. Maybe it was about the story. I hit reply. Let's talk. That night, I opened a fresh document and started writing. Not for revenge, not for closure, but for voice, for truth, for me. And maybe, just maybe, for someone else who needed to read it and remember that leaving doesn't make you weak. It makes you free. It started with a headline. She walked out in her wedding dress and took the internet with her. The article spread faster than I expected, picked up by local news, then national outlets. Comment sections filled with strangers debating my choices, dissecting the video, applauding, criticizing, analyzing. But somewhere in that chaos, something beautiful happened. Messages poured in, not just from friends or family, but from women I didn't know. Women who had stayed too long, women who had walked away quietly, women who had been waiting for someone to say, "You can leave." My inbox became a confession booth, a place for broken vows and found strength. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like just a girl who got left behind by the man and the maid of honor she trusted most. I felt seen. I kept writing. What started as one article became a column. What started as a breakdown became a breakthrough. And slowly, I started stitching myself back together, not as the woman Ethan once loved, not as the best friend Maya betrayed, but as someone new, someone unshaken. I moved into a tiny apartment above a bakery. The windows fogged up every morning from the scent of fresh bread and espresso. It was the first place I ever chose just for me. I bought secondhand furniture, painted the walls white, and hung old records on a pegboard wall. Elena came over every Friday with wine and Thai food. We never talked about the wedding anymore. We didn't have to. One night, weeks later, I found myself walking alone along the water. My hair was a little longer, my skin a little warmer from time spent in the sun. And I thought about Maya. Not with anger, not anymore. Just curiosity. I wondered if she missed me, if she ever sat with the silence that comes after losing someone who loved her unconditionally. Then I thought about Ethan, whether he still looked at wedding photos that never made it to the album. But the thoughts passed, like clouds, because they weren't mine to hold anymore. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. The screen lit up. A message from the editor. "Your last piece just hit 100K reads." I smiled, because this wasn't the end of my story, not even close. This was the part where the girl walked away from the fairy tale and wrote something better instead.